Hey, this is Tyler from Sure to Shame, bringing you your Fight Week special. I'm going to be breaking down a lot of the fights over the next week, starting with Dos Anjos versus Alvarez. Then I'm going to be doing the TUF Finale, Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Claudia Gadelha. And then finally, I'm going to be doing the whole UFC 200 card. How, you might be asking? Get by with a little help from my friends. So I'm going to be doing the main card for Dos Anjos versus Alvarez. And that starts off with Mitch Clark versus Joe Duffy. It's a good fight. Joe Duffy was part of that failed Irish invasion of 2015 when they wanted to excel anybody who had any connection to Conor McGregor at all. They wanted them front and center. He's fighting Mitch Clark, who's a pretty good guy. He's a solid boxer, has a great gas tank. However, he did get destroyed by Michael Chiesa on the ground. So you have to wonder what his ground game is like when you know that Joe Duffy has a very slick submission game. Don't write Mitch Clark out of this one, though. You have to admit that he does have a lot of strength. He's the last guy to score in the win column against Al Iaquinta. And you can't, and Al Iaquinta is a monster. You have to respect that. Duffy's got solid ground game and dynamic striking. He's a karate guy. He's got that whole Conor McGregor swagger thing going on. I feel like they just set this one up to get Duffy back front and center. They like Duffy. So this is a tailor-made match. I'm going to go with him by submission. After that, you got Alan Jouban versus Belal Muhammad. Remember the name. I don't remember if that's a note or a nickname. I think it's a nickname. It's kind of a weird nickname, but it's a good point. I see Belal. He's the Titan FC champ. He's got a lot of promise. I feel like he'll go a long way in the UFC. Maybe this is the start of his run at welterweight. Muhammad's a precision boxer. He's got good leg kicks, and he's always moving back. He moves backwards, except when he's striking. He's always on the move. Jouban is a well-rounded striker, has a tough chin, knees, kicks, elbows, whatever he needs to use. You have to worry, though. Jouban's reflexes aren't top-notch. Albert Tumanov is a pretty similar fighter to Belal Muhammad, and Tumanov ripped Jouban apart in that fight, picked him apart, caught him at every exchange. I don't think Muhammad knocks him out, but I do think he takes the decision at one. I'm going Muhammad by decision. After that, our co-main event is Roy Nelson versus Derek the Black Beast Lewis. If anybody knows any of the breakdowns I've done, you know that I say that there are two kinds of heavyweights. You got the skilled guys in the top 15, the guys you have to look at the matchups for, and then there's the lower half of the division where Derek Lewis is essentially champion. You run into a guy, hit him as hard as you can, hope he doesn't hit you as hard, and whoever's standing at the end of the first round, he's the winner. Lewis is that guy. He's gotten by on sheer brute force and athletic ability. But every time we've seen him go up against a veteran, with the exception of Gabriel Gonzaga, he's failed the test. Roy Nelson, I honestly feel like he should have retired. I've said that in other videos. He's getting old. His game has gotten old. Everybody knows how to deal with him. But I feel like Derek Lewis is going to run in and trade in the pocket with Nelson, which is a tailor-made matchup for Big Country. When you have a guy who sticks to a game plan, that's where Roy Nelson struggles. You saw it against Overeem. Overeem wanted to work the body, keep on the outside, and punish Nelson and wear him down so that he didn't have the power in that big overhand right. Cormier wanted to wrestle, wanted to make it a grueling fight. Miocic stuck and move, jab and circle. But Derek Lewis is going to run at Roy Nelson, and he's going to try and knock him out in the first 30 seconds, and that's going to leave him open. Nelson can only win if you strike in those exchanges. So I'm going to go Nelson, first round KO. That brings us to the main event of our first fight night. Rafael dos Anjos versus Eddie Alvarez. Rafael dos Anjos is in this little category of guys like Dominic Cruz and Robbie Lawler, where everybody's seen what he can do now, and they think he's unbeatable. They think he's the GOAT of the division. They don't see how he can lose. Except for the people that are on the Khabib bandwagon and think that Khabib should already just be gifted the belt because he's already beat Dos Anjos. But you can't look past that Khabib fight. You have to look at what happened in that fight. Dos Anjos, I'm just going to break down why I think Alvarez could win in this fight. Because everybody knows why Rafael can win. We saw what he did against Benson. We saw what he did against Donald Cerrone. We saw what he did against Pettis. But everybody's just writing Alvarez out of this fight. I think that it's unfair. Looking at the size matchup, Dos Anjos has a 2-inch reach. He's a southpaw. Alvarez is an orthodox, for whatever that means in this fight. But you got to look at Alvarez. He's got good head movement and is light on his feet. His footwork is kind of flat. He trudges along and tries to slug it out. But like I was saying with the Khabib fight for Rafael, the only time we've seen Rafael in any danger is when somebody chooses to wrestle with him. Jason High and Nurmagomedov, those are the last two guys to try and wrestle with Khabib, or wrestle with Rafael. Yeah. And they're the last guys to actually look good at all against him. Their grappling gave him an issue. And that's how Eddie won his fight against Anthony Pettis. That's how he edged out Gilbert Melendez. That's how he held on to a belt in Bellator. The problem comes with the striking. Because in the grappling, I think Eddie has this fight. Rafael is known for his jiu-jitsu, but his bottom game is a little weak. He doesn't try to submit you off his back. He's a little slow to get up. His top game is crushing. If Dos Anjos gets on top of Alvarez, he's going to murder him. But if Alvarez gets on top, I don't see what Dos Anjos can really do. The problem comes for Alvarez. It comes in the striking. We have seen a bit of a change in style of Alvarez since he's come into the UFC. The Donald Cerrone fight was an exception. He came in and was the Eddie Alvarez we all know and love. He was a crazy striker, wanted to fight in the clinch, the dirty boxing, which almost finished Cerrone a couple times. It was beautiful. This cautious guy that didn't want to trade with Anthony Pettis or Gilbert Melendez, he will get eaten alive. He will be another footnote in Dos Anjos' reign. But if Alvarez will trade in the pocket with him and try and tough it out with Dos Anjos, I think that he can actually edge out some of those exchanges and steal some rounds. So I'm going to be crazy. A lot of people are going to call me crazy for this. I'm going Eddie Alvarez by decision, and your new lightweight champion. Everybody feel free to tell me how stupid and wrong I am on that one. I'm just being the hipster on that one. The next night we get, on Friday, a card I'll actually be able to watch because I work a 40-hour work week, is your TUF Finale, Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Claudia Gadelha. We're going to start with Gray Maynard versus Fernando Bruno. Bruno is a decent, well-rounded fighter. He's a power puncher, and that is a bad thing for Gray Maynard. Maynard has only won one of his last 7 fights. That's it. He won 1 fight, and 1 was a draw, and that's 5 losses. So he's only won 1. This is Maynard's attempt to revitalize himself and bring himself back into the forefront by cutting weight, which we've seen with a lot of guys does not help your career. The secret to Gray Maynard becoming a threat again and extending his career is not to dehydrate himself and cause more brain damage. I really am worried about Gray Maynard. I think he gets knocked out in the first round by Fernando Bruno. Sorry, Gray. I haven't seen the finale for the last episode of The Ultimate Fighter, so I don't know who is all in the finals. I know Andrew Sanchez is in the light heavyweight final. I know Amanda Cooper is in the strawweight final. So I can't tell you who's going to win those fights because I don't know who's in those fights. I can tell you that Andrew Sanchez has good top control, and when he's standing up, he does a bunch of spinning shit. He's a good striker. He's a good wrestler. We've seen him be the stand-up guy. We've seen him be the wet blanket. Who knows who's going to show up to this fight? Who knows who he's fighting anyways? Amanda Cooper, she's a decent boxer with a nice head kick in her arsenal that won her way into the finals. She's not the most technical grappler, but she is effective. She has submissions in her game. She might be able to pull this off. Who knows who she's fighting though? That brings us to our co-main event: Ross Pearson versus Will Brooks. Hold on. All right. Ross Pearson versus Will Brooks. So it's supposed to be Ross Pearson versus James Krause, which was going to be a good fight. I was looking forward to that one. This one's going to be better, I think. Will Brooks is the guy that Bellator stupidly let go because he wanted more money, and they weren't paying enough to keep him around. I wanted to do more research on Will Brooks. I don't know a lot about his game. I tried to find some full fights on YouTube, couldn't find any. I went to Bellator's website because they have their entire fight library on their website, but none of the videos work. Go check it out. I might be because I'm Canadian, but I can't get any of the videos on their website to work. Nothing from last week, nothing from a year ago. Nothing works. So I really would have liked to know more about Will Brooks, but I had to go by really badly edited highlight videos with like 3 days grace in the background. What I know about him is that he has hands. He's got good kicks. He's got more of a karate style from what I can tell. So it might be a little unorthodox enough to hang with Ross Pearson. We know Ross Pearson has pinpoint striking and fantastic head movement. He put on a clinic against Paul Felder when it came to head movement. But we know that Ross Pearson is just a boxer. He's a great boxer. He's got some kicks in his arsenal. He's like Nate Diaz in that way. But we know when it hits the ground, that's where Ross Pearson loses almost all his fights. And we know that Brooks has a great running double leg in his arsenal. I feel like he's going to slam into Pearson, take him down, hold him down for all 3 rounds. And really, that's what he should do. The only way he loses this fight is if he tries to prove that he is an exciting guy and wants to bang it out with Pearson, which is a bad way to go. This is his first fight in the UFC. He wants to impress. I think that he can be a contender. After this, he should get a top 5 opponent, I think. Give him a real chance, kind of the Eddie Alvarez route. People are saying this is short notice, but he did get almost a full camp. I think he got a few weeks in. I think it was 4 weeks, if I'm correct. I don't see how he loses this fight. I think this is Will Brooks is to win all day. Look for big things out of him. And that brings us to our main event for the night. Joanna Jędrzejczyk versus Claudia Gadelha. Everyone knows how much I love Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She is a brutal barbarian of a woman, and it is beautiful. Everybody debates who won that first fight, but that was 19 months ago. A lot has changed since then. We've only seen one fight out of Claudia Gadelha in that one. She's been working her leg kicks. She's been working her power. She's got good wrestling. Maybe not as good as Carla Esparza, but But Joanna had no respect for Carla's striking, so maybe against Carla, she has to respect the striking, so she won't be expecting the takedown as much. Cordelia has decent wrestling. She took down her opponent 7 out of 16 attempts. Or, no, that was in the Joanna fight. She uses the Muay Thai clinch. That's one of her favorite ways to attack people. She's one of those Brazilian Muay Thai fighters. But the clinch, that's old hat to JJ. She's a Muay Thai champion. Claudia did get dropped by JJ in their fight. You have to remember that. JJ was able to drop Claudia. She outstruck her in rounds 1 and 2, and the striking was almost a draw in round 3. But ever since that fight, in all 3 of her fights after that, her output has increased, which is going to make it a more definitive fight. Joanna's hit her stride in the UFC. She is now level 10 Thunder Warrior, whatever you want to call her. She is unstoppable, I think, at this point in her career. You might see people coming up who can beat her, but I don't think this is the fight that she loses. Best case scenario, though, Claudia wins in convincing fashion. Unconvincing fashion. Close decision. A nice, brutal war that will be a Fight of the Year candidate, and they set up a rematch for the trilogy somewhere down the road. Be able to build this division off of the Jędrzejczyk-Gadelha rivalry. Kind of like the Tito-Chuck, your Jones-Cormier. Think about the trilogy and have everything built around that. 2 warriors, and you can build names off of 2 people in this division. But at the end of the day, I'm Team Joanna, despite everything that happened in the TUF, where she kind of got undermined and lost at every turn pretty well over the course of TUF. But I'm going Joanna Jędrzejczyk by decision. That brings us to UFC 200. And I am going to do the whole card. That should help. We start off with Jim Miller versus Takanori Gomi. Takanori Gomi is struggling in the UFC a bit. He's a good fighter. He's got a lot of speed, and he throws in crisp combinations. I just don't think it's enough to overwhelm Jim Miller. Takanori Gomi's last fight was against Joe Lauzon, and he had trouble with Lauzon's ground game. Miller's going to be worse for him. Their wrestling styles, their grappling styles are different. Miller is more wrestling heavy, and he will just hold Gomi down until Gomi gets exhausted, and I think either get tapped or gets knocked out on the bottom. This is Jim Miller all day. I'm going to say TKO. Don't be surprised by submission, though. After that, we got Gegard Mousasi versus Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos is a last-minute addition, but you can't write him out on this one. He knocked out Steve Bosse. He's the only guy to beat Elias Theodoro so far. He's a powerful kicker with his left leg. He boxes in orthodox, so he has to switch. That means he telegraphs. Gegard is a great striker. He'll be able to pick up on that. You should know. Santos has a decent grappling. First, use it to get up and strike. Gegard is a kind of a mixed bag. He's a striker when he wants to be. He's a grappler when he needs to be. Kind of like a middleweight GSP in some ways. You never know how he's going to come out. You never know what he's going to do. He's got good ground and pound. Mousasi's issue in all of his fights is a sense of urgency. He goes out and he plods through. He does just enough to try and win every round, and that gets him in trouble. It's what led to him getting knocked out by Uriah Hall. He got too complacent. But I still think that he will make this a slow fight, and he will be the crisper guy going into the third round, and he will edge Thiago Santos every round, Musasi by decision. After that, we got Diego Sanchez versus Joe Lozon. This is a fight that everybody is pumped for. Could be fight of the night, could be a sleeper. Everybody was pumped for Diego Sanchez versus Jim Miller. That really didn't wow anybody. But hey, could be wrong. This could be a nice bloody war, and we will talk about it for years to come. In his last fight, Diego Sanchez showed more reliance on his wrestling. He might be shying away from his recklessness. He might be trying not to do that thump your chest, grit your teeth, and swing from the hip punching style. If he uses that, great. That might be enough. That might discourage Lozon from the striking. Striking has always been Lozon's Achilles heel when you look at the Anthony Pettis fight. If it goes to the ground, if Sanchez wants to make this a grappling fight, Lozon has great jiu-jitsu. But if Sanchez wants to grapple, he might try and keep him against the fence and stay off the ground. Make this a fence battle, steal rounds that way, then break it the 30-second mark and slug it out. I think that Sanchez's veteranship and his grappling might make the difference in this. Lozon's a veteran too, don't get me wrong, but I think that Sanchez will game plan for this one and try and avoid Lozon submissions and avoid having Lozon on top of him and edge him out every round. Sanchez by decision. I'm going to say all 3 rounds, actually. After that, we get to the prelims, the televised prelims. Starting off with Sage Northcutt versus Enrique Marin. A lot of people don't know who Enrique Marin is. He's the runner-up for TUF Latin America 2. Lost to Eric Montano. Marin's pretty good. I have to say, I think that this is actually a good test for Sage Northcutt to see if he actually has a future in the UFC once you start throwing him real fighters. He came up short against Barberena. It was too much for Northcutt at the time, especially at welterweight, not at his real weight. Enrique Marin is, I might be putting a little too much French on that name. He's got good ground skills. He's a boxer, but he has leg kicks. His stand-up is very basic when you compare it to Sage's. Sage is very dynamic, throws wild kicks, and he has very flashy takedowns. When it gets to the ground, Northcutt is very defensive, doesn't work off his back, and when he's on top, he beats his way through to get his submissions. He relies on his athletic ability and his strength. Look at the guy. You can tell that he takes a lot of pride in being the strongest guy in the room. His technique is not that good, though. He needs a little more direction in his jiu-jitsu training, I think. Don't get me wrong, Sage Northcutt has all the talent in the world. He can be a star. But this is the fight that will prove whether or not that'll be sooner rather than later. You have to start rebuilding Sage at this point. If he gets by this one, you could start restarting the hype train. But I don't think that this is his fight. I think that I'm going to bet against the house on this one. Everyone thinks that Sage is going to walk through another nobody. They think that they're going to keep throwing him cans. I don't think that Enrique Marin is a can. I think Marin will take this one by submission. Okay, so that brings us to the big fights. We got TJ Dillashaw versus Rafael Assunção. Assunção has been off for nearly 2 years. Yeah, it's been a long layoff. And TJ has been doing work since then. In their first fight, you have to look at what TJ did, how he's changed since then. TJ overextended it a lot, throwing punches with a little too much commitment on them, and Assunção was tagging him up because of that, catching him when he was way the hell out, wasn't protecting his chin. But if you look at the Dominic Cruz fight, TJ has corrected that. Wasn't enough to beat Cruz convincingly, but he did correct that one hole in his stand-up. The thing is about TJ, he's big on footwork. His head work needs work. He moves a lot, but he doesn't take his head off the center line. His head's always there when you want to tag him up. When you look at a Sunsao, you look at their grappling. A Sunsao has decent wrestling, doesn't have the body but he doesn't have the body pressure to keep down a highly skilled fighter. He will get you down, but he doesn't have the ability to keep you there. So I think this fight will be mostly on the feet. You look at Sunsao's stand-up. He's got punishing leg kicks, which will slow down TJ. He's a great counter striker. He's fast. He throws fast, and he's got accurate hooks. But I think that the layoff will hurt him. I think he's expecting a different TJ than the one he fought last. Or I mean, he's not expecting this new TJ. So I think that this will go to Dillashaw by decision and hopefully set up the Dominic Cruz rematch, which should have already happened. That leads us to Hendricks versus Gastelum. I'm getting dizzy. That's better. Hendricks versus Gastelum. You gotta look at what Hendricks' head going into this one. The last 2 years have sucked for him. Ever since he won that belt, it's been downhill from there. He lost to Robbie Lawler. Then he had a really boring, needed-to-win fight against Matt Brown, which lost him a lot of fans, which lost him a lot of credibility in Dana White's eyes. Then he had to pull out of the Woodley fight, and then he got destroyed by Stephen Thompson. You have to wonder what that does to a guy, and whether he can come back. You gotta look when you look at their styles. It's a very I don't know what's going to happen in this one. Johnny Hendricks tries to walk through punches. Their stand-up is kind of a weird matchup. Hendricks doesn't have good defense. He walks through punches, tries to grab your wrist so he can start making a wrestling match. He's never gotten past the wrestling clinch, and he always fights for that. When he tries to strike, he has varying combos. He learns a trick, and then he uses it. You saw it in the first Robbie Lawler fight. It was 1-2 uppercut. In the second one, it was punch, punch, leg kick. Work him down. Cut him down. Who knows what he'll come out with this time? Maybe he'll make the improvements he needs in his stand-up, and maybe he'll go back to relying on the red right hand that knocked out so many guys before. Johnny Hendricks likes to grind people. When it comes to wrestling, he likes to ground them against the cage. Get him against the cage, take him down in an awkward position that doesn't use very much, that doesn't allow for jiu-jitsu to really come into play. You can't really practice those positions outside of a cage. But Gastelum's a great grappler. He's got a slick ground game, very awkward he's got smooth transitions, and he's got unique takedowns. He doesn't just rely on a double leg or single leg. When it comes to the striking, these guys both fight southpaw. That does leave Kelvin open for the left hand. Sorry, I originally said that Johnny Fight has a powerful right hand. It's the left hand. Sorry, I have that written down here. But Kelvin does have a reach advantage. He might be able to keep Johnny at a distance. We saw how that messed with Johnny against Stephen Thompson. Kelvin's a great counter striker, but when he does come forward, it leaves him exposed. He might get clipped. I don't know really with any certainty what will happen in this fight, so I'm gonna rely on my gut instinct and go with Hendricks. I'm rooting for Gastelum, but I'm going Hendricks by decision. Bringing us to the featured prelim bout, Kat Zingano versus Juliana Pena. Another fight I really don't know what's going to happen in. Pena is a wild striker as opposed to Zingano, who's got a little more precision, a little more technique. But let's see what else I have right here. Okay, well, let's just skip to the grappling. Kat uses body locks, arm hooks for takedowns. She likes more judo Greco style. Penny is a traditional wrestler. Aim for the legs, go for the double leg. She's best friends with Misha Tate pretty much. So you have to think that Pena has pretty good takedown defense. One of Misha's main training partners. When you look at it, Pena has good submission defense, but the problem is with her wrestling style, she ends up in a guillotine position quite a bit. She needs to work on her defense for that. She's going to get caught, and Zingano's too high level for her to rely on luck. At the same time, Zingano needs to gravely avoid Pena's mount. Of course, I know you never want to be in mount, but Pena, that is where she thrives. That's where she does her most damage. She has excellent ground and pound from the mount. The real X factor is Zingano coming off a 16-month layoff. You have to worry about what that does. And Zingano's always struggled with her mental toughness. You don't know where her head's at. So I think smart money goes on Juliana Pena going into this one. Probably decision. That brings us to the main card, and I need another drink. Didn't get one of them. Oh, I'm so sleepy. Okay, Cain Velasquez versus Travis Brown. Cain has the skill and ability to overcome the reach advantage and the boxing of Travis. Look at his fights against Junior Dos Santos and Bigfoot. He's not scared of reach. He's not scared of boxing. Cain will try and put this against the fence and wear Travis down. But you look at the way that Cain holds people against the fence. He puts his forehead in their jaw. He doesn't put his head down and leave himself exposed to Travis's devastating elbows. In the open, I don't think Travis has the ability to really hang with Cain. This is another fight where Travis gets exposed, like his Arlovsky fight, like his Verdun fight. I would say Cain by decision, but because it's heavyweight, you have to say first round KO. Pretty much any time it's a heavyweight fight, you have to say first round KO. That brings us to our title fights of the night. Our first title fight, the interim belt. Who knows how long it's going to be an interim. I think that this will just eventually be the next featherweight champion when Conor finally vacates. Jose Aldo versus Frankie Edgar. Both these guys have very similar striking styles. Both have crisp boxing. They're both very fast. They throw exclusively in combos pretty much. You look at the power advantage, you got to give that to Aldo. Frankie has higher output. Speed is a toss-up. But Aldo has greater accuracy. Aldo has leg kicks. But on the other side, you have to give Frankie the intelligence factor. He game plans way more than you can expect anybody from Nova União to game plan. Mark Henry prepares for fights like no one does in the business. You know that he has been breaking down footage, tape after tape of Jose Aldo, and you must think that he's kind of got it worked out now. He knows what he's done in the past. He knows where he failed in their first fight. The X factor in this one is Aldo's head. What engine after the McGregor fight? Do you think that Aldo is going to be a beast reborn? Do you think he's going to be hungry again and go out there and try and destroy everything in his path to get that belt back? Or do you think that he's going to be a broken man? His faith in himself is destroyed and he is going to be weakened and not the guy that held the belt for so long. You got to weigh your options here. I don't want to put too much faith that Aldo's going to come back a conqueror. So I'm going to go Edgar by decision in this one. Unless this is the start of Edgar's knockout streak, like he knocked out Chad Mendes. Who saw that coming? Maybe he knocked him out, but I'm saying decision. Okay, more chicks fighting. Miesha Tate versus Amanda Nunes. Both fight orthodox, which is the same as went for the Sarah McMahon fight where Nunes shut her lights out. Nunes knows how to navigate that, knows how to work angles. And she is the hardest hitter in the women's bantamweight division. There's no denying that. However, if you fight Miesha Tate long enough, she will find a way to get you down. Miesha's greatest strength is her what's the word I'm looking for? Tenacity, her commitment, her patience. That's the word I was looking for. Patience. She doesn't get discouraged when she can't take you down. She knows she will take you down. So look for her to be hunting that wrestling match that she wants to thrive in. But when you look at the striking, that's where she is in a lot of trouble. Miesha keeps her hands out in a weird karate style. She does not protect her chin at all, which leaves her open for Nunes' bombs. But when you look at it, Nunes has a gas tank issue. She was gassed out in as recently as her Shevchenko fight. This is a fight that they want to keep the belt on Miesha. They want to set up the Ronda fight. They handpicked Amanda Nunes because they're like, oh, Miesha will just wear her out and cruise to a decision. It's not that simple though. I think Nunes could win by a knockout. If it goes to decision, it'll definitely be Miesha. But Nunes can knock her out. I'm hoping that Nunes knocks her out. I'm a huge Nunes fan. I love her style. But smart money goes on Miesha by decision. That leads us to our co-main event, Brock Lesnar versus Mark Hunt. Everybody's writing off Brock Lesnar. I love Mark Hunt. He's a great fighter. Got his poster up on my wall, the Verdum Hunt card. I love Mark Hunt. Possibly the hardest hitter at heavyweight, which means the whole UFC, he's the hardest hitter. The problem is, and Brock does have chin issues. We saw that in the Kane and Carwin fights. His chin will not hold up against a powerful striker. But the problem is that the last time we saw Hunt run up against a stud wrestler was against Stipe Miocic. And that was one of the most unwatchable beatings in UFC history. I still can't make it through that fight. It's just sad to watch. So it's very possible that Brock hits that running double leg right up from the bell and grinds out Hunt for all 3 rounds unless he can get a knockout in there. Everybody's writing off Brock Lesnar, or they are blindingly saying Brock Lesnar just because they remember who he was. But you look at the style matchup, I think that this is Brock's fight to win. I think they picked him because they saw that Miocic fight, and they know that he's a stud wrestler, and he's freakishly strong. In every one of his fights, he took someone down, if I'm remembering that correctly. Your smart analyst will go with Mark Hunt. Maybe I'm not smart, but I'm saying Brock Lesnar. I'm just going against the grain on this one. And finally, thank God, we are at our main event. 40 minutes into this freaking video. Glad I don't have a co-host for this one. Okay, so we all know that John Jones beat Daniel Cormier the first time pretty handedly. And you have to look at the one question is, has Cormier made the corrections in his game to pass Jones? And he hasn't. You look at Cormier in his Gustafsson fight, he still struggled against a guy who has a longer reach. He struggled against a guy. He got taken down by Gustafsson in that one. Gustafsson is not a wrestler. He's able to take down Jones, and he's able to take down DC, but he's not known for his wrestling. So, in their last fight, Jones won the wrestling game pretty solidly. He got 3 out of his 5 takedowns, while he defended 1 of Cormier's 8 takedown attempts. I'm getting tired. Jones almost won every round on strikes. I don't see how this fight's going to play out much different. I could be wrong. The trilogy might make this fight, might make UFC history. Dana White wants nothing more than to have John Jones versus Daniel Cormier 3. Don't think it'll happen. I think it'll be a 2-0 lead for Jones, and Jones wins this one by decision. This is Tyler from Sure to Shame. Gonna go finish this bottle. I'll see you at the end of the fights. Maybe I'll do a breakdown. Who knows? I don't care. Bye.